This is the fourth edition of India Energy Week taking place in Goa. And sir, I want to begin by asking you, the Energy Week is coming at a time of a lot of global turmoil with respect to energy crisis. And there is a conversation going on between energy self-reliance and also global alliances and interaction in the energy sector. How does India as a country walk that tightrope?
First of all, I don't think there's a dichotomy or a contradiction between energy of one kind and global. I don't think any country in the world, and I'm being very clear, can hope to do it all by itself. It's not possible. You can be a major producer, let's say, of fossil fuel, okay? But you need to sell it. Are you going to consume it yourself? I mean, look at the major centers where fossil fuels are extracted, major product. They need to sell it to somebody. That's where the international dimension comes in. But I go a step further. Today, a country like India has not just walked the tightrope. You're actually defining the contours of that cooperation. You're today a very large consumer, I think the third largest in the world. You're the fourth largest refiner in the world. You're also the fifth largest exporter in the world. You're also a major player in biofuels. I mean, you moved from 1.4% ma'am to 20% now. You're also a big player in green hydrogen now. You're also getting very active in natural gas. Cylinder gas mein to tha hi. We were at 14 crore connections in 2014. We are at 33.33 crore. So one connection is one household, and a household has four. We've exhausted or saturated the population in cylinder gas. But we're also providing natural gas. Natural gas is cleaner and more reasonable. More and more natural gas is going to come into the market. Supposing there was a dichotomy or a contradiction between doing it yourself, Atmanirbharta, and that. So our Atmanirbharta is defined as energy self-sufficiency for ourselves and also as a contributor to the globe. I have never looked at Atmanirbharta as an inward-looking thing that we have to do it. Yes, we cannot be reliant, because when global turmoil takes place, and by the way, insofar as uncertainty and turmoil is concerned, I think our minds are wired in order to utilize all of it as an opportunity. And I think that's the real story which is unfolding here.
Taking that a bit forward, sir, you're talking about India having this opportunity at this crux of a conflict that's going on for energy. We're looking at a lot of countries participating in this fourth edition of IEW. We're seeing a lot of Arab countries here. We're seeing a conversation happening with Canada and other countries, the African nations as well.
By the way, the Canada, in the last few weeks, I've done 3 meetings with the Canadian. I had Minister Sandhu, then the Premier of British Columbia. I'm sorry to interrupt you. And the third one is the Minister Hodgson yesterday. And you know what he said? He said in one country, he was referring to his southern neighbor, if they have 8 years of reserves on crude, I've got 100 years. Well, we welcome that. Look, today, ma'am, more and more energy is coming on the global market, and India has diversified its sources of supply. We used to buy from 27, we are buying from 41 now. And in the times to come, India becomes also a major influencing consumer, producer, and exporter. So you're in it, in all that. So it's not, we are no longer talking about potential, you're there. Otherwise, these people will not be talking to you. I mean, look at what the Prime Minister has been able to do just in 1 week. He hosted the President of the UAE. Then he had on 27th, he had the India-EU FTA. Yesterday, he met the global CEOs of about 27 global CEOs. Look at the economic range that developed. And then now you've got news reports that the Canadian Prime Minister is coming here. And there is very structured and very strong potential of our energy cooperation with the Canadians getting intensified. I'm not saying it's something new, because IOCL already has an investment there, just to give you an example. And but now the British Columbia Premier told me that they are building 6 liquefaction plants. So once that is done, IOCL will be able to get energy, their gas out, whether to sell it in the global market or bring it here. By the way, a few days ago, just before the UAE president came, one of our special purpose vehicles, Bharat Urja Private Limited, which is, I think, a mix between IOCL and BPCL, they struck oil there. Reserves are reputed to be something like 100 billion. Even if we get 50% of that oil out, that's nearly 2.5 we have, no, if 8% can be extracted and we get, say, 4%, hypothetically, there are figures being worked out. We get 2.5 years of our supply coming from just this one thing. And man, we consume 5.6 plus million barrels a day, which will go up to 7 million by, I don't know when, 2030 plus. So this is a very important subject. 23% of our revenues come from the oil sector. But more than the revenue, it's also a defining characteristic of our lives. As you move into greener energy, EVs are good, but EVs we have to go for. Flexi fuel vehicles would be the best because they would use battery up to 40 kilometers and then use ethanol more than that. So we get a combination of all this. And I'm very happy to know that, we have not been found wanting in any of these areas. And the kind of arrangements which are taking place, both in terms of policy, we opened up 1 million square kilometers of no-go area. We've got a new law in place. And the Prime Minister is always talking of reform. And not that we have any sense of satisfaction that we know everything. If somebody comes up with a good idea, including in discussions with CEOs, we welcome that, and it'll register and people take careful notes. And then when the time comes to tweak so I think those results are showing.
My final question to you, sir, from a citizen's perspective, we're looking at so many changes in the energy sector. What kind of a trickle-down effect in terms of cost effectiveness can the country look forward to?
Two things. One is that, the very fact that we've been able to maintain prices so low, what affects the common citizen? I'm not talking about the gentleman who drives a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. The common citizen is affected by what? The price at which you get clean cooking gas into your kitchen. An Ujjwala beneficiary, ma'am, gets it for 5 or 6 rupees a day. A non-beneficiary gets it for 13, 14 rupees a day. I'm a former trade negotiator. It's called de minimis. This won't even register in if a family of 4 can do its cooking for 14 rupees in a day, plus at a time when you're giving 85 crore people 3 meals of dry ration in a day, you have to look at it. Then in the retail point at the bunk, look, the honest God's truth that prices, in spite of the dollar going up, the prices have not gone up. The prices are coming down. Your question, I think, is a valid question. If I were a journalist in your place talking to somebody like me, I would also say, aur kab kam hogi? I always say, in good faith, do your best. The very fact that we've been able to cushion the prices against the exchange rate, insurance rate, when there's uncertainty, people don't realize. If there is uncertainty and a supply route gets clogged or there is apprehension of, disorder there, then they take a longer route. Freight charges go up, insurance rates go up. But we have never passed that on to the consumer. So today, you're in the happy situation. You've insulated the consumer totally. You have not been able to not raise prices. And I think I would say that there are today reasonable expectation that if this continues well, 2 things I want to tell you. LPG and LNG. If you look at the LNG story, more and more gas is going to come onto the market. It is going to help revive our plants and it will become cheaper to the consumer. Insofar as LPG is concerned, today, in order to maintain the price line, how is it done? First of all, it's very good. The companies which are providing LPG incurred heavy losses. What are those losses? They lost something like, I think, 39,000 crores last year. They didn't crib. Why? Because the government stands behind them. We make good that loss. So I'm just saying that to maintain it at that level, somebody has paid a price. Earlier, I remember in the previous year, the loss on crude prices was something like 28,000 crores. We gave them 20,000 crores. But today we are in the happy situation that once you develop trust and confidence, the cylinder, cushioning goes into DBT, into direct pocket of the beneficiary. And today you have a system which functions, no concern on availability. When there were rains in the northeast, our guys were carrying cylinders on their shoulders. and doing that. In order to maintain this very moderately priced cylinder gas, which comes to an Ujjwala beneficiary at 5 rupees a day, somebody had to incur a loss, and that money we have promised to pay back in installment, and they're quite happy with it, and their profits are doing well. So it's an ecosystem which is, I think, well grounded and doing well.
Well, clearly, sir, a lot to look forward to. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for talking to us. Thank you.